Good morning, Rabboisai. Hayoy marbo yomim bo Omer and lo Omer. Lili nishmasim imirasusum Mordechai. Today's share is sponsored by Michael Weiss. Missing the 8-minute daf lately. Giving for hakaras, hatov for the daf. Why? I missed the 8-minute daf tremendously. But, we're talking about Pesach, vacation, not vacation, different country, the setup. My editor is in America, Ruven Chait. Be'ezer Hashem, from Masechtas Yoma, will be back. So Yishkoyach Michael Weiss, thanks for the hakaras hatov, and Be'ezer Hashem will be back. So, I got an email from Bernard David. He says, 2 new members from Manchester Chabura just joined the family. Anthony Brody and Johnny Leitner, Rafal's cousin. Join your amazing, inspiring, Gevalik Shir. May continue to inspire us. Admei of Esther from your Talmud, Bernard David. Now, what's very interesting is that I got this email today, and somebody else sent me an email about Bernard David. And he said, you think that people pose for pictures for MDY and they pull out a Gemara and pretend ki'ilu they're learning, he says. Here's a guy chazering in his head, and he says, this is Bernard David. If you want to know what Bernard David looks like, learning and chazering, that's Bernard David, the Rosh, Manchester Chabura. Here's another 2 emails that we got for the same exact thing. Dear Rebbe, Agute moed. I know Yosef will see this email, so in his humility, he may not forward it. Yosef always does a great job editing the video. And many times he goes above and beyond what anybody might think or expect. But today, Shkalim, Daf Yud, he was, in my opinion, his absolute best yet. You probably don't watch the full video every day. But if you haven't today, go watch from minute 29 and 28 seconds. I'm not even going to mention what it is, but it's absolutely impressive and entertaining. All the best, Avi. Then we got an email from Rabbi Sapaznik, who's on YouTube, or I should say he's on Zoom right now. What he did was as follows. I had a bottle of water in my hand, and I went like this. I took money and I said, this, on this. He followed the bottle with barley. I don't know how he did it, but every time I moved it and I was moving it quickly, the barley moved with the bottle. Very, very impressive. And this is what it looked like. If you see it closely, very geschmack. It actually enhances the experience of learning Torah, and I love that kind of stuff. So Yishkoyach Yosef. Apparently, people have been sponsoring the turning of the daf for the Zechus of a shidduch. And apparently I didn't know this, but we are able to make shidduchim that don't even exist with people that never were created. Thank you for the Mazel Tov announcement. This is from Rabbi Pressman, Elchanan Pressman. Just for your information, the announcement we heard was for my daughter's engagement, although it was my son that got engaged. I said his daughter got engaged. He doesn't have daughters. He only has sons. We only have boys. My father was pretty surprised when we received the call that my daughter got engaged. Agute moed to all. Elchanan. So that's Elchanan Pressman. Now, talking about posing for pictures, not posing for pictures, I don't care if they're posing. This is a picture of my anicle. I miss him very much. You know what it means to leave an anicle behind for a whole month. It's not even. Here he is learning the daf on Simcha Kornblut's lap. This furry creature right over here, this white creature. Or there's another one of Simcha Kornblut. You could, if you see clearly, I don't know if you can, but here's the screen, the shear, here's the Gemara, and here's his furry friend right over here. Okay, it's hard to see in the picture, but believe me, he's there. We don't miss him, but I pretend that just in case my kids watch, because different people are watching and sending different things to different places, so you got to be careful what you say. So yeah, we missed the anicle terribly. It's not the tsar that we have. Okay, fine. I think we got to all. Yeah, we could start shir now. We are holding today's Daf Yud Aleph. We're holding on the bottom of Yud Amud Beis. Brand new sugya. Omer Rebbe Chizkiah. What is it? 2, 4, 6, 8 lines from the bottom. Tanur Rebbe Yehuda Gudgadiyos. HaShulchan or Gudgadiyos. Something like that. A bunch of gimels, dalid. So using this interesting picture from yesterday, so here's the inside of the heichal. Here's the menorah. Here's the shulchan with the lechem aponim. Here's the mizbeach haktoires. If any of these are out of position or missing completely, you cannot bring a carbon. So the carbon is outside. You think it has nothing to do with. All right. The carbon cannot be brought if the shulchan is not there, the menorah is not there, or out of position. Now we have to be goyish like the gra. Karkoiv v'keren. Again, I don't have my pictures. We'll do with what we have. This is the karkoiv. There's a design around the mizbeach, right below the soiva. This is where the kohanim walk. Right over here, there's a nice little design. The keren, of course, is the horn, so to speak. It's the corner. Each corner has the amma and amma and amma. This little piece over here. If it's missing, you cannot bring a carbon. Say Chachamim, it's only those two things. Forget the menorah, forget everything else. It's those two pieces. No, this is not good. Can't continue like this. It has to. That's not how they say. Shrei and Amrin, they both say kolhon dichsiv. Anytime it says noichach, so if you take the pasuk, see noichach over here. V'samtis hashulchan, talking about the shulchan. Noichach, v'samin noira, the menorah. Noichach, that's why the menorah is red, not the shulchan. The menorah is noichach. Hashulchan is tzela. Hashulchan tzela. So anytime it says the word noichach, makiv. So the menorah, if you move it out of the place, you don't have it completely, cannot bring a carbon. Tzela in a makiv. But when it comes to the shulchan, the hashulchan tzela, if it's missing with all the lechem aponim in it, it's not a ma'akiv. I could bring karbanos. Not true. Shulchan is also ma'akiv. Top of Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. Another pasuk. So why do Chacham say only this is ma'akiv? Only this, these two guys. What happened to the shulchan? What happened to the menorah? When it comes to the avodos, inside meaning in here, in the heichal, then there's no machlokes. But once you step out of the heichal to where the real mizbeach is, that's in the azara. Talking about the azara, where this is outside of the heichal. Inside the heichal, you have a tiny little mizbeach haktoires, the zav. We're not talking about that one. We're talking about the massive mizbeach that you bring the karbanos on. That's in the azara. Over there, that's where you have a machlokes. That according to Chachamim, the only thing that passes, it makes a lot of sense. When we're dealing with karbanos, and this is on the outside where the karbanos are brought, so now I have to be concerned with one thing, with one item, the big mizbeach. If it's missing the karkoiv, missing the keren, do not bring a carbon. It's ma'akiv. We actually learned, I have to think about this, we learned that if one little piece of the mizbeach is missing, it's ma'akiv. Okay. But we're talking this inside, no machlokes. And Remeir will say, you cannot bring a carbon over here if pieces, the kalim, any kli is missing, I don't care, inside, outside, any kli, it's ma'akiv. Omer Rebbe Chanina. Shachtzis gedoyla hoyso bivnei kohanim gedoylim. There's tremendous shachatz, gaiva. I'm thinking about renaming my sefer now. Shachatz delio. Shachatz, it's geschmack a word. Shachatz gedoyla hoyso bivnei kohanim gedoylim. What's going on? They have to build these ramps to bring their cows. It's gaiva. I don't know how much that's worth, but it seems like a fortune of money. A tiny piece of gold this big is like $2,000, right? A kikar, a loaf, a thing of 60 of them, millions of dollars. That's how much it costs. Think about it. It's a tremendous amount of. There are no trucks, no tractors. No, what do they call those guys? The cranes, no cranes, nothing. They had to do everything by hand, build a whole bridge by hand from Weiss to Har HaZeisim. Why is it that a kohen couldn't use last year's kohen gadol's ramp? Every kohen gadol that brought a parah aduma, however often that was, they would break the other ramp and build a new one. And it cost them 60 loaves of gold. He said, Rabbi Ula kumi Rabbi Mana. He didn't like this, Rabbi Ula. He tells Rabbi Mana, Watani, Shimon HaTzadik. Who's Shimon HaTzadik? Shimon HaTzadik was from Shiyarei Knesses HaGdoila. He was a tremendous, tremendous person. Now, it says that Alexander the Great, I think it was a Gemara in Brachos, Alexander the Great met Shimon HaTzadik. And he bowed down to Shimon HaTzadik. And he says, why are you bowing? Because when he went to war, he would see the dmus of Shimon HaTzadik beating the enemy. He realized that Shimon HaTzadik is a chashuv person. Even Alexander the Great bowed to him. So Shimon HaTzadik, we obviously was not a Bal Gaiva. So says the Gemara, Shimon HaTzadik shtei paros asa. In his lifetime, he was a kohen gadol for how many years? For 40 years. In the 40 years that he resided over the Kehuna G'dayla, he brought 2 parah adumas. They explain on the side, maybe because there was so many tmeim from the wars, unfortunately, that a lot of kohanim, a lot of people came tamei, they needed more parah aduma. And it says, he built 2 ramps. He refused to use the original ramp that he built. In other words, you don't use, it has nothing to do with the other kohen gadol, it has to do with the cow. A new cow requires a new ramp. He was a Balgaiva? No way. And even if he was a Balgaiva, why would he make 2 ramps? Isn't 1 ramp enough for 1 Balgaiva? Why does a Balgaiva need two ramps? So I don't like the pshat that has to do with Gaiva. Why is it that they broke down the other ramp, built a new one? Al Shem Maloi Bepara. They wanted to show how chashuv the parah aduma is. Silsulihi bepara. They made a covet for the parah. Tani, and we learned. Now, next. This ramp wasn't just a flat ramp. It had walls. Why does it need walls? So when I read this, I thought it meant simply that the kohanim shouldn't lean over and become tamei. But now that I'm thinking about it, I understand why the tikkun chadatin and the korban eidah. Well, there's another pshat I'll tell you, but v'yitzitzu kohanim, according to the korban eidah, is that the kohanim underneath shouldn't look on top, not the kohanim. Because now I'm thinking maybe it's only one kohen that walks on the top. So they were medayik in the lashon of kohanim, maybe. Just a thought, I might be wrong. Maybe there's more, but okay. So the point is that the people underneath shouldn't look, people on top. But what's interesting is that Tikkun Chadatin says a completely different shot. It's referring to the kohen gadol that he shouldn't be able to see something like a dvar erva and have an unpure thought and become tamei with his impure thought. That's what the Tikkun Chadatin says. So it's to block his view, not to block the tumah. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva Omer, ein mistakrin. We learned in the Mishnah, Machlaik is Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, does Hegdish make business with the leftover of the Tmura? So Rabbi Akiva says no. Elam Rotza, Yehefset Shaloi V'asachar LeHegdish Mutar. Says Rabbi Akiva, if you want to do business with the leftover, the moiser that we have left over, then you have to take the responsibility. If you're taking all losses upon yourself, which by the way, if you do it in general to your friend, that's called ribis. If you take all risk, you tell your friend, you invest with me and I take all risk, that's called ribis. You're not allowed to do that. But for the Beis HaMikdash, it's allowed. Says Rabbi Akiva, if you take the responsibility, then, and Hegdish has nothing to lose, you do business. Now that fits in well with the Tikkun Chadatin's pshat, that we're concerned that Hegdish is going to have a loss. So if you're taking the responsibility, it's not a loss. The problem is that yesterday we mentioned the other pshat, that it's not proper, ein aniyos b'makom hashirus. You don't do business for such a wealthy enterprise like the Beis HaMikdash. So how do we explain that? And some say that's the Bavli, there's the Yerushalmi. Okay, different pshat. Ka'ada bar zmino itpaket gabi modal liyasmin. Bar Zmina is the name of a person. Just like Hada, like it happened with Bar Zmina, he was in charge of the Yisayimim's money. Also, Shalom Rebbe Mana, and he wanted to know, and you have to fill in the gap here. You know, what I'm starting to realize why Yerushalmi is more difficult than Bavli is because I think, for many reasons, besides the Gersais and there's more words per page, but also 3 words here, Ushal Rebbe Mana, and that's it. It doesn't say what the question was even. Ushal Rebbe Mana. He asked Rebbe Mana what? But it's obvious. He asked him, can I take this money from the Yisayimim and invest it? So he just had to spend another 20 seconds filling in the gaps here. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of gaps. Omer lei in boys they have said the didach va'agir d'tarveichoin. If you take upon yourself the responsibility, all losses are yours and all gains are split 50-50. Then it's allowed, shari. And so too, we'll take that idea and bring it to Hegdish. If you take all losses and all gains go to the Beis HaMikdash, there's no 50-50 with the Beis HaMikdash. Beis HaMikdash is different. They get 100% of the profit, you get 100% of the losses, then there's a deal. Again, he also was in charge of the Yisayimim, Va'avad Kain, and that's what he did. In other words, it's a tzaddik. He took all the risk and gave the Yisayimim all the profit. Moisar Peres. So we learned in the Mishnah, there's a concept called Moisar Peres. Not on this chart. Moisar Peres. What's Moisar? Not on this. What's Moisar Peres? So, real quickly, let me just show you one part of it. What we're going to learn now, to make it easier, I think, is Rabbi Shmuel, Reish Yod, usually is Rabbi Yehuda, today is Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says, Moisar Lishka. So, whatever is left over here, Moisar Lishka, this is the Lishka, the top part. And you have leftover. What do you do with the leftover? So you fill up, again, you fill up 3 boxes from this, and then you stop, you put a blanket over here, and then you fill up, okay. So what happens when the 3 boxes, you didn't use up all the money? So that's Moisar Lishka. I just wrote, to be funny, I wrote business biyayin. He went and he did a deal, he bought wine with it, and he's selling it for, I just figured, because the one word business means a lot, to me at least, and everybody else. It means I'm buying, selling, instead of the word asik, I didn't know how to do it in one word. Business. Biyayin. And that equals payrois. Okay, so when you have extra money from the lishka and you do business with it, any money coming in is called payrois. Now, step number 2 is, Rabbi Shmuel says, and that's the end of the sugya. There's going to be an argument if that's true or not. Let's pretend that's true for now. And Rabbi Shmuel says, Moisar payrois, what do you do with this money? You make business with wine. You took the lishka money, you bought wine, you sold the wine for a profit. Now, Beis HaMikdash has money in its pocket. It made money. Now, what are they going to do with that money? So Rabbi Yishmael is of the opinion that you buy Keitz HaMizbeach. You buy extra karbanos for the low time. You buy oilais. Now, according to Reb Chia, how did you get that extra money? According to Reb Chia, it's schar hegdish, and according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's sar revis. So schar hegdish means, like we were talking about, that they made money. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's not that they made money. It's that they went into a contract and they benefited from the contract that they went into. Sar revis means that they spent, hegdish, Beis HaMikdash has to buy oil, flour, wine. So in the beginning of the year, they buy supply for the entire year, and they benefited. It's like a stock. They bought the stock low, and it went up in value. They bought, let's say, flour for 1 selah, 3 saw. And at the end of the year, it was worth 4 saw. For every selah Beis HaMikdash spent, they got an extra saw for free. Because when they went under contract, it was 3. But because of the Beis HaMikdash, Yodam al Yona, they always win. So that extra saw It wasn't from business. They didn't do any business. They wrote a contract, and the contract said they only get 3. But because the prices dropped, the product dropped, flour now is worth 4 for every selah, for every dollar, so they get that extra 1. Now what are they going to do with that extra 1? They sell it, but it's not business. So let's see inside. Says the Gemara Masnisin the Rabbi Shmueli. Our Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Shmuel. The Rabbi Chia bar Yosef Pasam Masnisin Moisar Peiros Sachar Lehegdish. You see the green right over here? Rabbi Chia holds that what does it mean, Peiros? That they did business. They had wine and they sold the wine for more money. Moisar Nesachim. Now there's something else called Moisar Nesachim, not in this chart. What does it mean? What's the definition? Zusa Revius. What Rabbi Yochanan says in Moisar Peiros, he says that means Nesachim. That what? They went on the contract for 3 saw per selah, and they ended up lucky, they got 4. By the way, if they go under contract for 4 per selah, and the price goes up to 3, you only get 3 per dollar. That means the price went up. Beis Hamikdash always wins. They'll get the 4, as the contract says. Rabbi Yochanan Pasam Asnisa. Now Rabbi Yochanan says, Moisar Peiros Zusar Revius. Rabbi Yochanan is purple, and he holds that the definition of Moisar Peiros, leftover fruit, what does it mean? Sar Revius. That if the contract, the Hegdish, Beis Hamikdash benefited from the contract, it went from 3 to 4, they get that extra saw, they don't know what to do with it, because they made a cheshbon, hey, we're only going to sell 3,000 saw this year. And they sold, and they got, for the contract, they got 4,000 saw. And they only actually sold 3,000. Now they have 1,000 saw of flour. What are they going to do with it? They go in the market, they sell it. And the money that comes back in is called Moisar Peiros, according to Rabbi Yochanan. And what does Moisar Nesachim mean? Beirutzin. I don't want to make Yosef crazy, but I don't have a cup. So pretend there's a cup. If he wants to, I'm going to stand very still. Here, he can do it right here. Haha, now he has to move it. You know, when a flat cup, the wine goes a little bit above the brim. It depends. We're going to talk about if it's dry or liquid. So Beirutzim, what's above the brim is all profit, because they only pay for up to the brim. Above the brim is Hegdish. V'lesle asked the Gemara, V'lesle Rebchia bar Yosef Beirutzim. Everybody should hold that that's Hegdish. Yes, it's included. Sar Revius means the extra benefit that Hegdish had. So does Beirutzim mean the extra benefit that Hegdish had, and it belongs to Hegdish. Says the Gemara, Al daita de Rebbe Chia bar Yosef nicha. This green makes a lot of sense. Let's talk it outside. Yesterday we said, this is machlokes, we started off the shir, machlokes, Rebbe Shmuel holds you can do business, Hegdish can do business, Rebbe Kiva says you cannot do business. So if we go like the green, that we're talking about business, makes a lot of sense. Rebbe Kiva says, do not do business, for whatever the reason. Hegdish might lose, it's not nice for Hegdish to do business, they're not in the business, that's not their thing, they're too wealthy for that, whatever the reason is. But if the pshat is that they got a gift, the market went from 3 to 4, they got an extra saw, so what are they supposed to do? Throw it away? What's Rebbe Kiva arguing? Rebbe Kiva says, no, you can't do that. Why not? So inside, I'll die to the Rebbe Chia bar Yosef nicha, a mistakim b'shel hegdish, af loy b'shel aniyim. You can't do business for aniyim. Lefichach zeh v'zeh loy hoy moedim b'peiros. That's why Rebbe Chanina and Rebbe Kiva in the Mishnah argue in Bishmal, and they say you're not allowed to do business. But I'll die to the Rebbe Yochanan kashya. But how does Rebbe Yochanan explain it? If it went from 3 to 4, Rebbe Kiva argues on that. Says the Gemara, not that they argue on that, but he'll have to explain that they argue where the money goes to. They say it does not go to buy karbanas. Yes, they could take this money that Rebbe Yochanan is talking about, from 3 to 4, the extra sauce, sell it. What do you do with it? You have to buy kalim for the Beis Hamikdash. Do not buy korbanos. That's what they argue about. Ad Kedoin, on this tzad, we're talking about the Beirutzim go to Klisharis. Ad Kedoin Beirutzei Tzibur. What if an individual comes to Beis Hamikdash, he comes all happy, he's bringing a mincha, and his kli is over full? What does the Beis Hamikdash do with that extra flour? It adds up eventually. What? They should buy kli sharis from an individual's mincha? We never find such a thing. Says Gemara, yes we do. We had this. If a woman makes a garment for her son, the Kohen Gadol, even though it's an individual giving a gift to the Beis Hamikdash, we take it. As long as she has full kavana, great. Even if it's dry goods, so now the gra takes everything out, and please look at the gra on the side, because it's kind of long. The tanin taman berutzi lach kodesh berutzi yavesh chulin. Yes, you should know there's a difference between liquids and dry goods. Beautiful. Why? And this is all taken from the Bavlik, from Menachos. Velama berutzi lach kodesh b'nei shemidas halach nimshach mibifnim. You can learn in different ways. You can learn according to Tikkun Chatin. You know what happens when you pour liquid into liquid? The liquid is going to drop to the bottom. So the liquid that comes to the top and is going above the surface was already inside the kli. So it's already kaddish. But when you pour dry goods, the stuff that overfills the cup was never inside the kli. So never received kedusha. You have to be inside the kli to receive kedusha. Some learned that nimshach is literally, it was anointed with oil. Okay. Why? If there's another carbon to buy, they should, if there's another carbon there, use it for the carbon. You have extra flour for the nisachim. Or, the wine, use it for the nisachim. And if it went overnight, if it was overnight, then it's possible because it was overnight. And if it didn't sleep overnight, then you just sell it for oilos. Says the Mishnah, Halacha Gimel, official Mishnah in Yerushalmi, sponsored by Official from Official Catering. You have Ketores, and there's a lot of Ketores. And oops, I forgot to bring my siddur. But there are some funny people out there that say this thing in the morning, by me, it doesn't exist. My siddur starts from Baruch Shamar, nothing before. But there are some tzaddikim, mainly chassidim, and they say it, and it's Pitim Aktoris Keitzad, and it goes through the whole cheshbon how there's a lot more than you need. There's 3 more mana than you need. 3, whatever the number is, 368. Okay? So what do you do with the extra? Now you cannot let it roll over to the following year. Why? Because, as we said, just like a tamid, you can't let it roll over to the next. Whatever you buy is with the money from this year. From Rish Chodesh Nisan, that money that we do from the Lishka, we buy stuff for this year. Anything that, once Tafshin Beis comes, Rish Chodesh Tafshin Beis, it's a new year. So you got a problem. Okay, I made a chart. Let's see if this works here. Here's the Ketores. It's Kaddish. And now we don't have to do Yosef Biliak's thing. You take the Kedusha and you put it onto money. So now the money becomes Kaddish and the Ketores becomes Chayil. The Kedusha, well, here's the thing. The money is already Kaddish. You take Kaddish and you put it on to money that's Kaddish. And the Kedusha from the Ketores dissipates. The Gemara is going to ask, how can you put Kaddish onto Kaddish? It should be Chayil. Okay, next. Now you take the Ketores that has 0 Kedusha on it because you already took the Kedusha and you transferred it into the money. So now this is the same Ketores as before, but it went from Kaddish to Chal. You take the Chal and you give it to the worker man. So now the worker man has Chal Ketores in his hand. Now you take new money, different money, which is from the new crop of money, from Rish Chodesh, after Rish Chodesh Nisan money, and you buy it off the guy. You buy it off him. So now the Ketores becomes Kaddish because the money that you bought it with was Kaddish, and that money, Kedusha, transferred into the Ketores. The Ketores you're going to use for the following year because it was bought with money from the new money. And the new money that has a Kedusha is Chayil money, has no Kedusha anymore. Because all the Kedusha that this money had transferred into the Ketores. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah inside. You take Tyrus and you give it, you set aside for whatever the guy worked. And you take it and you put the Kedusha of the Tyrus into the money. And you give the Tyrus to the worker. Then you go and you buy it off the worker with new money. If you have brand new money, then you can do this whole trick, and the Ketores becomes new Ketores. If you don't have new money, use the old money. Ask the Gemara, it comes out, you're taking Kaddish Ketores, and you're putting it on Kaddish money. You need room for the Kedusha to transfer. This needs to be Chol. It can't be Kaddish. Maybe Mois umechalal binyan. So, returning to Daf Yomi Beis, sponsored by Yaakov Badner, Zechus of a great shidduch for Dina Tamar, Bas, Esther, Rivka. You realize why I read the letter. First of all, he said he prefers not to. Prefers not a. With me, it has to be. I 1,000% don't want you to read it b'shum oif, and I'm not moichel. Okay. Second of all, he mentions Menachem Ateh there. I'm not going to mention Menachem Ateh when I have a chance. And Stephen Sokolov had to. Okay. So this pshat is different. You take money that has kedusha. We're not talking about money that doesn't have kedusha. You're starting Beis Hamikdash money. You take the money and transfer it into a building. As we discussed yesterday, when Beis Hamikdash builds a building, they never build a big kedusha. You cannot build a big kedusha. They build an entire building, and afterwards they infuse kedusha into it. How? By putting money that is kedusha into the building. So now the kedusha from the money transfers into the building. The money that was kaddish before becomes regular money. Now, then forget this money. Now we're talking about how to get the Ketores from last year. What do you do with it? So now you take the Ketores that has Kedusha, it's old. You can't roll it over into the following year. So what do you do with it? You take this Kedusha and you put it into the money, this money that became weekday money, regular money. You take the Ketores and you put it into the money. So what happens to the money? The money becomes Kaddish. What are we going to do with it? That's a different question. But now the money becomes Kaddish. And the Ketores becomes Chayil. Now what? Now you take Ketores that has no Kedusha because you already transferred Kedusha out of it into the money. And you give it to a worker man. Then you come with brand new money and you buy it off the worker man. So the Ketores becomes Kaddish, the money becomes Chayil, end of the story. Or so we thought. Says the Gemara on top. Maybe Ketores mechal aleim. You bring Ketores and you transfer Kaddish, the Ketores that we're trying to figure out what to do with, you transfer it into the money. And then you give the Ketores, which has no Kedusha anymore, you give it to the worker guy. Skip a few words here. Rebbe Omer. Rebbe doesn't like the fact that you're paying construction workers with hegdish, with Ketores. Doesn't fit in with him. It's not covered. You could give it to the kohanim that they have chachma, how to do Ketores, how to make the straight smoke that goes up to Shemayim, how to make the lechem apanim in a beautiful shape that nobody knew how to do. You pay them. Okay, it's the same mahalach. He goes through these steps. But instead of giving it to a working man, give it to a chashav, a kohen, a guy, a professional baker. Omer Shmuel bar Rabbi Yitzchak behein shiyu chayavin lehen mois mishar rishayna. This is only that you owe them money from last year, the working man, but not new work. In other words, you want to pay them with the old stuff for old work. What happens if you never owe them money? If you don't have somebody that you owe money to, then the only eitzah is to take this hakaras and buy korbanos for the kites hamizbeach. Again, what does kites hamizbeach mean? The dessert. Kites means dessert. When the mizbeach has no korbanos, you don't have any tmidim, people didn't do any averas, nobody's bringing shlamim, you take out a kites mizbeach and you put it on the mizbeach. Rabbi bar kohen, bai kumi Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi asked Rabbi Yosef. Mechal v'shtitzel the Rabbi Chia bar ba. So Rabbi Chia bar ba asked before on Amud Aleph, what do you do with this money, this hakaras money? Now, Tamar pshitale. Over here, it's pashat. V'kop tzrichale. Okay, flip it around. He didn't know what to do, and then now he knows what to do. What's pshat? Says the Gemara, had pshitale bikli shares. I think you have the words. Yeah. Had tzrichale b'choil. As the Gemara is going to explain. In other words, when there's a kli shares involved here, so the hakaras has gedusha. When you put in the kli shares, it has gedusha. But if you're talking about a kli that has no gedusha, then the hakaras has no gedusha. What's going on here? Says the Gemara, this palgun, we have machlekes. Pitma bechulin. If you were trying to prepare the hakaras in a vessel, here you take a piece of plastic, you throw it in there, you start grinding it up. That's not hakaras. Hakaras has to be done in a beautiful Beis Hamikdash kli that has gedusha, which infuses the gedusha into the hakaras. Not true. It's kosher. My time there, Rabbi Chanina kodeshi. What does the word kodeshi mean? When you make it, it should be done b'kedusha. My time there, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi kodeshi. Yes, you're right. It says kodeshi, but I learned something else. That the money that you bought it from comes from the trumas halishka, not how you make it in the kli. Or is a verbon bei Rabbi Bon Asir the Rabbi Yosi ben Chanina kishmuel. So this comes out like Shmuel. That what? We'll see in a second. Or the Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Rabbi Yochanan. The Tanina we learned hamagdish nechasav. Hamagdish, an individual says my belongings should become kaddish. And there was something in there that was good for a carbon. What does that mean, Rabbi Yochanan hakaras? So stop. Over here you see the idea that an individual could be magdish my hakaras to the Beis Hamikdash. Where did I make my hakaras? I don't have a kli sharis in my house. All I have is this. So you see that this is enough to make hakaras, and it's not possible. Omer, Yeshua, no, not a good raya. Potter, maybe the pshat is Buman shel Beis Haftira, so you know the b'schar hakaras. No, you know who made the hakaras? The Beis Hamikdash made the hakaras. So how did Eli Stefansky get hakaras? Well, Rabbi Schoenberg. How did Rabbi Schoenberg the Kohen get hakaras? Because Rabbi Schoenberg knows how to make hakaras. He knows how to do the tricks. Did you see his? By the way, look at this, unbelievable. This is the Haggadah. 67 pages. Unbelievable. So in here somewhere, I'm sure, there's a tremendous article from Rabbi Schoenberg, how to make hakaras. 4 pages long, how to make hakaras. No, there is an article by Rabbi Schoenberg, but not about hakaras. But he knows how to do it. He knows the secret. So Mamela, the Beis Hamikdash paid Rabbi Schoenberg hakaras. And he took the hakaras, instead of selling, he gave it back. So you're asking me, how is it possible that an individual donated hakaras to the Beis Hamikdash? Because he got it for his wages, and he's giving it back to the Beis Hamikdash. This is a machteshes, mortar and pestle. You take this thing, crush the hakaras in here. So the machteshes also kichli shares. In other words, Shmuel holds that the only way hakaras has kedusha is if you put it in machteshes. You put it in this. And this has Kedusha. He's saying that if this didn't have kedusha, then your kataris would be worthless. It wouldn't be good. So you do need kedusha, says Shmuel. How's it possible? We just said we had a whole shaila here. This chart. How do you take kataris and transfer the kedusha out of it? And the whole story, take it, transfer it to money, blah, blah. But if the kataris was made in this, and this is kadosh, this is a klisharis, so now the kataris is kadosh kedushas haguf. It itself, it's like a carbon chatos. Kedushas haguf. You can never transfer kedushas haguf out of an object. Almost never. Says the Gemara. Amalei v'lei Shmueli. Didn't you just say this goes like Shmuel? Oh, great. This Shmuel Amar kalu b'moisar. Shmuel holds, he himself holds. This whole sugi Shmuel. Shmuel himself holds that when it comes to extra karbanos, extra stuff, extra k'tayras, you could transfer the kedusha out of it. Why? This palgun hoisiru tmim. What happens? We learned this in Kachin. You need 2 karbanos tmidim. Shalom Aleichem Nachum Katz, Shalom Aleichem Ezra Abrams. Again, it's great to see you. Please come every day. And you too, Eli Kamiansky. It's great to see you. The guy that told me to go on YouTube 3 years ago. He had no idea that would bring to some unbelievable stuff. We don't even know where it went to. But anyways, as of today, there's about 1,000 views just on YouTube. Forget about Torah Anytime and all that stuff, the other few thousand. Eli Kamiansky, right there on Zoom. Shkoyach for joining us. So, real quickly, every day we bring 2 tmidim, but the Beis Hamikdash always had reserved 6 tmidim. Now, the end of the year comes, day 365 or whatever it is, 354, whatever you want to call it, the last day of the year. Now you have 6 tmidim in stock. You cannot use it again for the same reason we discussed before with the k'taris. You cannot use my tamid from this year. It doesn't roll over to the following year. What do I do? Says the Gemara, Shmuel Amar nivdim kismimim. So real quickly, how does that work? You take money from the bank. It says bank here, believe me. Oh, here, bank. You take a loan from the bank, chulin money, put it onto your kadosh animal. The animal becomes chulin, the money becomes kadosh. Now you take money, real money from what? The lishka. New money, chadasha, from the lishka, and put it onto the animal it has no kedusha anymore. You took the kedusha out over here. So now you infuse new kedusha into it. So now this animal is good for the next year because you just bought it with new money. And memela, I'm going to use this animal for the same purpose I was going to use it before. It becomes a tamid. Great. And Rabbi Yochanan says, no, you cannot do this trick that Shmuel says. You have to just let it graze and befall a mum and sell it. In other words, Shmuel's of the opinion that k'taris also have extra k'taris, do this whole trick. You can do this for k'taris. Put it on money, transfer the kedusha out. What if you left over goats for a chatos, a carbon chatos, a tzibur chatos? On Rish Chodesh, we use these goats, and you have leftover for whatever reason. One got lost, you replaced it, you have extra. Adai to the Shmuel. According to Shmuel, if I could do this to an oila, a tamid every morning is a oila, so certainly I could do it. If this guy is a oila, so certainly I could do it if this guy is a chatas. Why? So they explain, because a oila remains a oila. I'm just going to take it and transfer again to oila. But a chatas, I'm not going to transfer to a chatas. A chatas I'm going to transfer into an oila. The Moed is the kosher chatas. Adai to Rabbi Yochanan Amar zero yiru. According to Rabbi Yochanan, you let it graze. Or Shmuel by Rabbi Yitzchak. Mekaitzim by Mesam Mizbeach. Not true. When you have a sheep that its lifetime, it's the end of the year and you don't know what to do with it. Instead of doing this trick with money, he says just take it and throw it on the Mizbeach whenever you need a carbon, whenever you need dessert. Don't do any of this. Vikashio Yish chatos shekreva oila. How are you going to take a chatos and flip it into an oila? How are you going to make Ketz HaMizbeach? This is a chatos. You know what? When there's a lull in the Mizbeach, you're going to take it and put it on the Mizbeach as an oila. It's a chatos. You can never change designations on a carbon. Once a carbon is a chatos, it's a chatos. You can't say, oh, today it's an oila. What you think that you cannot do, that's when it's an individual. When I bring a carbon chatos, I'll never in my life be able to change into an oila. And if the owner that brought a chatas dies, the chatas dies. You can't change anything. But over here we're talking about a public carbon. And what we do is, says the Gemara, tremendous chiddush. We don't give it a designation. Until the very last second, right before you take the knife to cut, you say, oh, I'm cutting it as an oila. It was never a chatas. It's whatever I want it to be, that's what it will be. According to this mandama. Omer tonight bezdin hu ala moises shikvu oilos. Not true. I did say it's a chatas. Just I could be masna leiv bezdin masna aleim. The bezdin has the permission to undo it, and they make a t'nai that if I have leftover chatas, I'll be able to flip it into an oila retroactively. Have a wonderful day. Stop. How you doing? I saw you last night. I see that's it. You're kavua. One more day, you're kavua. You're a goner. Shloimi, was hatzach? You working less for Chalamayid? I don't work too much to begin with. Doesn't matter. Oh, Shloimi Leitner is on. Shalom Aleichem, Shloimi Leitner. That's the new guy, I guess. Right? No? Hold on. Let's go back to the tape over here. I've seen you around. I know. I've seen you around a lot. So what is he talking about? There's a different Leitner. Johnny Leitner. I knew it's a Leitner. You see? I knew it's a Leitner. Yeshua, we need to compete with the competition, the other guy that has more viewers than us. The only way we can do it is if you stop making those funny hakaras at the end of the year. Eli Stefansky, great shit. They don't have that. Go over there. It's like it's professional over there. It's not professionel. You're ruining it. Eli Newberg, Shalom Aleichem. Long time no see, Tzadik. You guys have to see my setup. I'm sitting literally on top of a printer here because I have to leave it here in the boardroom. Anybody can walk in. Any guy from the hotel can walk in and take my printer. So I like hide it under the table. It's not the money. It's going out to Target and buying it and coming back and schlepping it and setting it up. Please. Brooklyn. Shalom Aleichem. How you doing, Brooklyn? There's a lot of Brooklyners on. Akiva Ziegler is also from Brooklyn. Who else? Eli Dykman. I'm just looking at this. Michal Shields. Show the Olam what your room looks like. Where are you? Oh, you're in the shul. You're in the Beis Medrash. Nebuch, you have to wear a mask in there. Go to your room. Watch it in your room. Yes. Beis Medrash. Okay, show them the Beis Medrash. It's just a regular room. Michal, turn your screen around. Show them what the Beis Medrash looks like. Very nice. Talk to the guys for half an hour before this year. I heard he has a nice He's sitting on my seat, actually. Michal, you sitting on my seat? What? Michal, you come with your phone to the boardroom. Let's see if you can get a shot of me in the boardroom. Should I open the door? I have to open up the door for him. Hold on. Oy. One second. Here, flip it around. Where are you? No, you got to stand over there. Stand by the door. Yeah, like that.
Make sure we get this on YouTube as well. You have to get him on the YouTube camera.
Doylem wants to see this new light I bought. That's why today I wasn't squinting. It's all about the light. He actually could. I didn't know he's watching. I had no idea. I just saw him on the screen. Your lawyer thing. What happened?
I know you were. I forgot where you were.
I wasn't so nice. My shver gives a shir here every day, Daf Yomi, and I saw this 13-year-old kid comes to the shir. So I go over to him afterwards. It's like, you want to go to a real shir? Here, let me show you the real shir. I stole a guy right from my shver's thing. I'm not kidding. I showed him the YouTube and everything. I come here in the morning today to learn. Right after Shabbos, the kid is already here. I mean, it was after breakfast. The kid is already here because he missed the first 5 Daf Yomi. So I hear him listening to me on 1.5 speed. He figured it out himself. He just plowed through it, but he still goes to my shver shir. He goes to the live one, but that's it. We got a new customer. You might get a free Gemara.
Maybe you should switch it over. Maybe you should switch your shver to give this year one time.
He's 15? He's 15 years old. Sorry, he's 15 years old.